right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. And as I always say to you all, I hope each of you are doing well. Um, we are entering spring, and so spring has not been my friend. So due to allergies, so I hope each of you are doing well. Today, oh my God, I always say that all of my guests are special, and I really do think they are because they all bring just so many different types of expert advice to us, and their stories are so interesting, especially after this phase of life. And today I have Regine with me. Regine is a physician, you guys, a physician at the age of 48. And I cannot wait to dive into this story. I was really inspired when I first saw it on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to her. I have to talk to her. She is preparing to start an anesthesia training as a surgeon intern, followed by an anesthesia training next year. Previously an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, and entrepreneur, she transitioned to a non-traditional pre-med and medical student, managing life as a divorced mother of two who remarried at the age of 45 during her second year of medical school. Nice. Since 2022, she has chronicled her medical school journey on social media, which is how I found her, connecting with women with dreams deferred and overcoming challenges. She is committed to supporting women on the path of medical school and residency. She has inspired many to pursue their dream of becoming physicians. Welcome, Regine. How are you?
Oh, Ronnie, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm great, and I am thankful you have this platform for us, over 40 crowd.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to dive into your story. Um, and to start, I really have to know this. Can you share a little bit more about what led you to pursue going into medicine after the age of 40?
Yeah, such a good question. I've always had the dream of becoming a doctor as a kid growing up. It was somewhat of more of an inconvenience, though, as I grew up and in a single mother home. I couldn't stay out of the workforce, but for so long. And that is 8 years of pure dedication, not getting any coin. Okay. And that was not going to happen freely and
Right.
easily with the
Mhm.
circumstances I grew up in. And so I really worked hard during my early adult years to kind of quench that desire and fire to become a doctor because it was just so inconvenient for what I was trying to set out to do. But let me tell you, when I went into entrepreneurship and began um, seeing clients who mostly women were my clients when I was a massage therapist and acupuncturist, and they were women who were successful in what they had been doing. And I I met a surgeon. One of my clients was a woman surgeon, and after my first session with her, the way I approach my sessions is very it's like medically based. I work
Mhm.
on imbalances and it's just not about rubbing the muscles. I'm trying to correct imbalances in your posture so that you can have better long-term effects from my work. And she said, wow, you would have been a great doctor. She has no idea of my past aspirations. And
Yes.
I was 34 at the time. And I said, Doc, why are you telling me this now at 34? It's too late for me. And I said, when I was younger, I didn't get into the nitty gritty of it, but I let her know that and true story, when I was in high school, I actually did pass out and during like a procedure that a woman was having. They were poking anesthetic into her vulva, and I was
Oh.
like
Oh.
passed out. So I told her, "Oh, I passed out." She said, "Do you know how many of my surgery residents pass out?" And I said, "Wow, that's amazing." So that was 34. She planted the seed because before she actually said that, I thought that you had to be perfect in order to pursue medicine as well. I thought you'd never pass out. No way would you pass out. You know everything. You're smart. You went straight out of high school into college, into and did the perfect traditional path. And so there was no room for someone like me to pursue it at that time. But what I did do, I started doing my research and I found that there were non-traditional students. And that was so encouraging. So 2 years later, I began my prereqs in for medical school as a pre-med student. And there was no looking back after that.
Nice. I love that. And when you mentioned that vulva, I was like, ooh, I would have fainted too. I'm not
No woman wants to see that.
no at all. I would have definitely fainted.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like you had this journey that you really wanted to take, kind of, and it's hitting home a little bit. That you wanted to take, and then you met someone and they planted this seed, and then you, okay, this seed was planted. Now I have to water this seed. It also
Mhm.
sounds like this person was sent to you, like God put this person here for a reason and to remind you this is the path that I have for you. And so I'm going to
Absolutely.
introduce this person to you. They're going to have this conversation, plant this seed so that
Oh,
you'll know this is the direction that I have for you.
that's nice.
So I love that. And, I love that God does those type of things.
So,
I am someone who went pre-med when I was in undergrad. I was
really?
pre-med, and I was pre-med in psychology. And so at some point I was like,
Mhm.
was kind of misled by some professors. And it's like, well, no, you don't really have to go to medical school to do this and to do that. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe I'll just stick to the psychology side. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And so as the years went on, and I that was one of my biggest regrets in life, was
Yes.
never going to med school.
Yes.
And it was not until I hit the pandemic, like when the pandemic came and I was just seeing so many doctors, how they were impacted.
Mm.
And in my line of work, I call myself a retired therapist because I'm not really practicing anymore, but I still train other people and I still work with individuals who are in mental health. And so I would see so many people come in for support, especially physicians. They would reach out
Um,
on this text-based platform, what we have, and they would want support for what they were dealing with. And I was just like, maybe it wasn't the path meant for me. And at that point, I had a little bit of reprieve because I was like, this maybe wasn't the path for me, and I can stop being so hard on myself.
mm.
Um, does it come up from time to time? Like, yeah, girl, you should have done this. Yes. But then I think about, you know what? I'm too old and I don't want no shaky hands trying to operate on somebody's brain. But I love what you said, and that is, you went and you started your prereqs, and you just went on this journey, and you've been doing it, and it's just no looking back now. And so I love that you got started. I love that you ran with it. And so seeing your video, I was like, who is this lady that went back to school after her 40s, go to medical school? I was so inspired, but I was just like, how is she doing this? How,
Yes.
because we deal with so much stuff. And I know
Yes.
you mentioned the non-traditional student.
Mm.
And at this phase of my life, I'm just thinking like I'm dealing with brain fog and fatigue and
That's
all of
right.
these hormonal imbalances. So how I would love to know, how are you, and I'm not sure if you're in that phase where you're going through those things yet, because I know everybody's journey is different. But I
Right.
would love to know, how are you um really focusing on your passions if you are dealing with those things? How are you combating those in order to be successful right now in this field?
Oh, it's a fact
Mhm.
that I was very cognizant of going in. And let me just mention that in addition to the surgeon saying I would have been a good doctor and planting the seed, God, he took it us 2 steps further within that same 2 week span of seeing the surgeon, I had two other clients who were like in their 50s,
Mm-hmm.
successful women in their field. Okay. And they both, and I mean unprompted, I did not prompt this conversation. They began telling me on two different times that they regret not going for the dream that was in their heart, even though they were
Yeah.
so successful. And
Yeah.
I said, and that's what sealed it for me. I said, I don't want to be in my 50s and 60s wishing, because that had been a regret whenever I would meet a woman physician. And I knew a lot of successful women like yourself. I also did undergrad psych, by the way. and and I wouldn't feel any way except when I would meet a woman physician. And I
Yeah.
said, this pain in your stomach that is telling you some things about what you're desiring, you know?
Yeah.
So as far as when I was 36 and I started my pre-med, I mean, there was no issue about having brain fog or anything like that. But let me tell you, at 43, starting med school, and that's a whole nother animal,
Yes.
definitely went in like I did cleanses. Let me tell you, I was cleansing my body. Had a full regimen exercise that I had been committed to since I was 40. I was eating whole foods, also taking things like lion's mane for my focus, you know, and clarity. Um, what else? Everything. I mean, sea moss, whatever you can think of. Meditation. Let me
Yeah.
tell you how great the meditation is, because I never understood how focusing on my breath, albeit there are many types of meditations, but the one
Mm-hmm.
that focuses on a flame or your breath, what I learned, and I use it to this day, is that it helps me train my mind
Mm-hmm.
to focus for very long periods of time. So there's a type of meditation called Vipassana. And when you learn this, initially, you actually do a 10-day retreat where you're doing like 10 to 12 hours of meditation per day, just in silence, and you're not talking. Okay. So, what I began to do in between terms was to do 2 hours of meditation. I read somewhere that Deepak Chopra does 2 hours of meditation every day, and I was so impressed. And I said, let me try that. Did the 2 hours, and what I realized is I couldn't go 20 minutes when I first started just focusing on my breath. My mind would wander, and everyone understands that type of situation. And the yogis call it a monkey mind. So, what I started to do, they say, focus on your breath. And every time it wanders, just bring it back, just bring it back. And that's the muscle you're training.
Yeah.
So when it translates into real life, I'm able to focus on studying for 9, 10, 12 hours a day as needed as a medical student. Also, clarity is there, focus is there. I'm taking my supplements. I take supplements all the time. I take my iron because anemia will have me laid out. Okay.
Yeah.
And I make sure I do my annual physicals, make sure everything's good, do my mammograms, keep on top of everything. And that helps a lot. And I also was listening to binaural beats. I don't know how that helped, if that helped, but it kind of allowed me to really go for stretches of time while I was studying. So yes, very aware of
Yeah.
the falling off as I get older. But there are solutions.
Yeah, I love that you had this regimen planned out. And I also like hearing about what solidified your decision, which
Mhm.
was meeting other women who had these regrets.
Yeah.
Often when we get at this phase of life after 40, we start to kind of go back through life. We replay it in our heads and we're like,
Mhm.
I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And we get older and that regret and sometimes resentment can sit in. And
Oof.
so I love that just hearing those stories kind of also help you say, okay, I don't want to be in this place at 50. Let
Yeah,
me follow this dream that I have now.
that's right.
Um, and then I also like how you prepare and how you plan, because you're right, meditation is so important.
Mm.
It is actually something I still struggle with, and I'm trying to get better with meditation because as soon as I hear it, I'm just like, I'm knocked out sleep. So it is something that I know I have to work on, and I am surrounded around meditation all day. at the at my day job. Um, but when they say, "Okay, here's a meeting where you can take a break from work and meditate," I'm like, "I'm not gonna come because I go to sleep." But I will go to sleep. But I love the supplements you mentioned. Um, I'm gonna also make sure that I share those same things because I've heard a lot about lion's mane and especially sea moss. And um, I know for myself to stay focused, there are things that I've also been trying as well. And I've been really curious about lion's mane. So I'm really happy to hear that you mentioned that, especially for focus, because good
Yeah.
God, the brain fog is
Julie?
it's a lot. And I think that that is something that's also important for women to hear, is that these are things that you can try if there's something that you want to do. Don't let the hormonal imbalances, the change, that this changing phase that we're in stop you from pursuing your dream.
That's right.
So thank you for sharing
Oh,
that.
my pleasure.
Um, were there any doubts or fears that came up for you as you were going through this journey? And if so, what were those
Every
like
step
for
of
you?
the way. I mean, up until like last week, child. They don't stop. I mean, let me tell you, my pre-med portion of the journey was the hardest because that's when I went through my divorce. And I learned so much about myself that needed to come out and would not have had I not went through a divorce. And that was
Yeah,
that I had my worth tied into being a wife. I had no idea that that was my belief, that my
yeah.
worth was being a wife, and also being a mother to two children who had the same father, right? That was a belief that I strongly held because I grew up in a household of, it was three of us for my mom. We all had different dads. And I remember my little sister's dad always like shaming my mom about having different children's fathers. And I was thinking, I'm not going to do that. Like
Yeah.
I started to put worth into women's who had the one child's father and was married. And so when I got divorced and I was stripped of that status, I felt worthless. And that is a dangerous place to be. So I quickly learned to, um, through the help of books, prayer, journaling, of course, that I have intrinsic worth that is
Mhm.
not and should not be tied up to anything external,
Yeah.
because external things you have no control of sometimes. They can be stripped away, more importantly. And then who are you? Who will you be when you're
Mhm.
stripped of everything? So during this journey, so that was the hardest part of the journey because what I was going through emotionally, the desperation I had as feeling worthless and trying to become a wife again. And it was not working out. I had to let all of my baggage go and really connect to who I am. And connecting to who I am, whew, that strengthened me throughout everything. I got to tell you, now I recognize my intrinsic worth as well as everyone else's intrinsic worth. And
Mhm.
that's a beautiful thing. And also becoming a physician, so many people I would imagine uh, link their worth into that title. And so I'm so free of that, which is, oh, it's such a freedom.
Yeah.
And it's a good space to be in because, God forbid, of course, I worked hard for the physician title, but it's more of who I became and had to become a physician that is more important to me than the actual title, letters behind my name, because you have to be resilient. You have to work failure into the plan. Okay. You have to have fear, of course, but move in spite of it. And let me tell you, when you move, the action is what puts the fear to bed. Okay. They said there's a
Mhm.
saying, fear, only fear itself. No, no, baby.
Mhm.
Don't fear fear. Fear in action. Okay. Fear is normal. Can we normalize
Yes.
fear? Can we?
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
used to hear you have to be fearless. And that's why I didn't do anything because I was never fearless. I always had fears.
Yes.
Always. I have to embrace fear sometimes and tell her, hey, baby, we're going to do it anyway, right? We're going to
Yes.
do it anyway. And then the more action I do, the more she's like, okay, I'll rest. I'll go to bed. I
Yeah.
actually put her to bed. That's it.
Yes. I love that. That's a sermon. The whole sermon about fear that
Oh,
so many of us need to hear because we
mhm.
continue to allow fear to impede our progress in the decisions that we make because we're like, well, what if this doesn't happen or what if this doesn't work out? And
Mm,
sometimes we don't even take the steps to even find out if it's
yeah,
going to work out or not. You know, we
that's
don't we don't even try. We just allow that fear to talk to us and
yeah,
convince us to not follow through with something.
boy.
So I love that you just said, I'm going to take these steps. You know,
Yeah,
despite the challenges, I'm going to still push forward and do this.
yeah.
Another thing I also appreciated that you stated was despite the obstacles and you did this inner work that was needed in order to help you get to where you needed to go. And I think that sometimes a lot of us we fail to realize that those internal things they can come out in other ways,
Oh,
not just with like relationships over here with a marriage or a dating partner, but also in our work, in the things that we do from day to day. So I love that you did that inner work to
yeah,
say, you know what, I have to heal in this area so that I can grow further into my career as well. And also
absolutely.
you did not allow those challenges to stop you. So kudos to you because so many women would have been like, you know what, let me put this on pause and let me come back to it later. And then sometimes later may not happen.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there. I've definitely wanted to quit because quitting was easier in that moment.
Mhm.
It was just too hard to keep going.
Mhm.
There's a thing, I don't even know where I got this exercise from, but it's what do you want said at your funeral? You know, or you ever hear start from the end and then work backwards?
Mhm.
Start with the end in mind.
Mhm.
And that is the end, right?
Yeah.
Your funeral. And that was also a driving point. I wanted to add value to this life and the calling that was in my heart. I knew it was there for a reason, and it was an injustice for me to ignore it. So, with God's grace, I got through so many of those challenging times. And what happens is they become fewer and wider apart. Okay. They used to be back to back. I was going through depression as well, uh, lots of anxiety, and yeah, quitting would have been easier, but my
Yeah.
kids were watching. I have two
Yeah.
kids. That helped a lot. It wasn't just about me.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they are very proud of their mom.
You know,
And I love that you said you brought that up to begin with the end in mind. I think it was Stephen Covey or Covey, I think I'm saying his
okay,
last name right, who
okay,
stated that begin with the end in mind and then you
okay,
work your way backwards.
yes.
And you're right. What do you want people to say about you at
Mm,
your funeral?
mhm.
And I am pretty sure just you on this journey, this path, the way that you're inspiring other women. I see the women in your comments,
Oh,
and I
thank you.
just know that when that time comes, people
Yeah.
will have so many beautiful things to say about you because you are. It's so like I was just inspired. Like all of these women are saying, "Yeah, I'm going back at. I'm 38. I'm in my 40s. I'm going," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And it was just kind of tugging at me, like, "Girl, you might want to revisit your dream a little bit."
Yes.
So I love that. It's
Big. Oh, we have a
yes.
bigger than I imagined. Yes.
Yes, I was impressed. Like it is inspiring to
Mm,
see that and then to see so many black women wanting to go on this journey because we know I want to say the numbers are about 5% of doctors are African Americans. I believe it's about
yeah,
5%.
that's right.
And to
And
see that
2.8,
so many people, what was that?
and 2.8 are black women.
Yes,
2.8%.
yes.
Girl.
And just to know so many more women want to be a part of that. You know, I am,
Oh,
when I tell you like this is exciting for me. And it's like I'm not taking prereqs in med school, but it's exciting for me. And I love that you all are following your dream and following your path. Like it listen, if I keep talking to you long enough, you're probably gonna have me.
Looking up to me right
And I'm reaching out to you like, girl, I did it. Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, so
now.
I want to kind of shift a little bit in terms of like the balancing of responsibilities, work life balance. Um, I know that when you're going through med school and things like that, it's a little bit different of a journey. And I'm not sure if it's the same as it was 20 years ago, but I remember people, and even at the time I was dating someone and he was a surgeon going through his residency program and he's saying, you can do it, you can do it. But I'm wondering about the balancing of responsibilities. How do you balance work and life, being a mom versus going to school, being a wife versus
Yeah.
being in school? How do you balance those things?
So at this point in time, both my children are adults. The
Mm.
balancing came when they were 7 and 11, and I went back on the journey. I took it so slow so that there could be balance, that I could be home, that I could show up for their games and their school events and so forth. I mean, it took me, I went in to pre-med at 36 with a 2-year degree from a junior college. And I still took 7 years to complete my bachelor's because I would take one semester off, stack money because I was going through the divorce, stack my money so I can pay in installments the next semester and take a few classes. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I don't say no to help. My ex-husband's mother is my angel. She
Nice.
watched my children every single weekend so that I can work the entire weekend because that as a massage therapist and acupuncturist, that's when you make the most money when people are off from work. And I worked long hours and the children just stayed with her that weekend because at that time my ex-husband had moved to Texas. So she stepped in and helped me a whole lot. And they grew, they graduated from high school and college, and now my little one is in her freshman year. She's completing her freshman year at Howard, and she is, I mean, I'll be going into my residency and she knows it's going to be a lot, especially surgery residency, as you know, because you were dating a surgeon, a surgical resident. Those hours are
Mm.
no um,
Yes.
oh my God. She's just so proud of me. She is dry. She is dry like her daddy. You know what I mean? So when I saw how excited she was that I had actually matched and I was about to become a practicing resident physician, I was like, wow, like if I had not thought it was worth it, which I did before that, I was like, in that moment, it was so worth everything.
Yes.
And yeah, so I won't have to balance the motherhood part of it so much anymore. I will be dedicating most of my time to residency. And my husband, who I met in 2018, he has been my rock. He's so supportive. He
Nice.
he is there. He's preparing dinner for me. All the food I need. I don't have to go into the kitchen. He has it prepared. He's doing the clothes. He's doing everything that needs to be needed. That needs to be done, and happily, like he loves being there for me, and it's amazing to have that support. I always say either you have a supportive spouse, partner, or none at all when you are pursuing ambitious things, that
Yes.
is going to take your time. You cannot have an insecure man or partner by your side at all. They will try to put the monkey wrench in your
Hmm.
plans. Yeah, so he's a great support, and my kids love him too. He's been
Nice.
great. I mean, my ex-husband is an amazing father too. I would have loved having a father like him growing up,
Mhm.
So I'm glad I was able to choose a good man to father my children. He's been great. and he's a great support as well. He'll be at my graduation too.
Nice. I love
And he's
that.
friends with my husband. Like, it's a good community for my children, which is good. My mom, and I love to talk about this because it's so rare. My mom and my ex's mom are best friends as well. And we used to say we met for them to be friends. I think that's what it is. They are like sisters. So it's just beautiful for my children. I love to
Yeah.
see it for my children.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that you have this well-rounded support system
Mhm.
that's there for you to kind of
Mhm.
help you during this time. And you are absolutely right. When you're going on this journey, you cannot have a envious or jealous spouse
No,
because it
no.
will turn into
Oh,
something else.
oh my goodness.
And sometimes will also lead to competition in ways that it should not.
No,
So
I love that the man you were dating, the surgeon you were dating, was rooting for you, cheering you on,
Mhm.
and encouraging you, because that's not the story I usually hear. Even with men in medicine, when their women want to go for it, I've heard so much of the opposite. So I love hearing that story.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He used to root for me. He also started off um his residency in anesthesia, and so then he ended up saying he really wanted to do surgery, so he ended up going into surgery.
Oh, he's
And
great. I love it.
yeah, so he was really very, very, very supportive. I was just like, "But I'm just too old. I'm just too old." And he was like, "You are not too old." And I remember hearing from some of his, I became friends with some people he worked with as well. And so they would say, when I was in med school, there was a guy there, he was 70 years old. He just wanted to do it because it was always his dream.
Yep.
And so he went through it and he finished. And I was like,
Oh,
that's amazing. But is he like, he's not like operating on anybody or anything. And they was like, no, he just wanted to do it to say that he followed his dream.
wow. And put it to
And
rest.
and put it to rest. 70 years old, and so I was just like,
Amazing.
so, yeah,
What
I used to get a
crazy.
lot of
That is crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
70, so I had, people rooting me along the way and just saying, do it," and I was just like, "Well, I just too old." So, I don't know, we'll see, at this point, I'm just like, "Listen, I can't work. I gotta go to school. I can go to school, but I'm like, after that, what's next? I can't work. I can't do these things, and it's just me." So
Well, what do you
that's
mean you can't work?
another concern too. I'm sorry, what's that?
What do you mean you can't work?
So when you get to like the med school part, right? You can't work at that point,
Oh,
right? Because
right.
you have to dedicate your time
Exactly.
to school. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta dedicate your time to school. So I'm just
Ooh,
like, it's just
about
me.
4 years. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived
So that's another one of those burdens, and I'm just like,
yeah,
ugh. But if it's God's plan for me, He will always work things out.
absolutely.
To where when I get to that point, if I decide to still take that path, then the right things will fall into
Same
place. So I do believe that,
here.
I do believe that.
Same here.
Yeah. Earlier you talked about some internal work that you did along this journey. I'm
Mhm.
curious, are there any other life lessons that you've learned that you could share with those who are listening?
Hmm. I think something that's really important is the phrase or the buzz. It's a buzz phrase that goes around saying love yourself,
Hmm.
but it's abstract, right? No one ever really teaches you how to love themselves, how to love
Yes.
yourself. Who does that? Um,
Yes.
there's a book I read, and this is what changed my life from the inside out, called Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote the Four Agreements. So
Yes.
he wrote this book, and let me preface this by saying I've read hundreds of books, okay? So sometimes you need primers to prepare you for the book that changes your life.
Hmm.
Had you not read anything beforehand, it might not have the same effect, if you will. So into my life at the right time. 2017, January 1st is when I read this entire book because it's a page turner and it's short.
Mhm.
But what it does is give you concrete steps on how to love yourself. Now, the
Nice.
first step being tell yourself the truth. Now, I was familiar with telling myself the truth because I had really dissected my behavior and attitude in my 19-year marriage, how selfish I had been, how much I was depending on my then husband to make me happy. And when he dropped the ball, I was upset and resentful. And so I was telling myself the truth about a lot of things I was able to face at that time. The second step was to forgive others because, as you know, and you've heard, like, we're vibration, and when we're holding on to unforgiveness and resentment, we're vibrating on like this
Yes.
low frequency, and we attract
Mhm.
low frequency things into our lives, right? We attract more unforgiveness, resentment manifested in different uh, areas of our lives, and we don't even make the
Mhm.
connection, but that's the energy we're giving out. So,
Yes.
so I began to forgive people, and not that I would say, "Hey, I forgive you." It was a matter of inner work. I began to imagine myself in their shoes,
Yes.
right? So my dad, who was an absent dad growing up, I had so much resentment surrounding him. And I began to think he was 24 when he had me. He probably wasn't really in love with my mom. They didn't have a great relationship. My mom was very violent. And I guess he just didn't know what to do. I'm putting myself in his shoes. I was his first child. And if he knew better, he'd do better, was
Yes.
what I imagined. And it was so easy when I put myself in his shoes to let go of the resentment and expectations I had of him as a dad, and started to understand that has nothing to do with who I was born to be. The third thing was forgive yourself. That was the hardest step. Had to forgive myself of all the poor decisions I had made, and also empathize by empathizing with myself and saying, "Girl, you didn't know any better. You grew up with a mind of scarcity, of lack. You didn't understand anything about abundance. If someone had it, that means you couldn't have it. This was your belief for
Yes.
many years. Okay, you're learning a little different." And then, fourth, moving forward, acceptance was good. Like something as simple as I laugh a lot and I smile a lot. And as a daughter of a Jamaican mom and a Jamaican family child, that was looked at as weakness. And so
Mhm.
for many years, I did not like that about myself. Among other things that I rejected. And I started to accept these things. And I was like, that's actually a beautiful part of you, that you
Mhm.
smile and you laugh and you find humor in so many things. Um, life shows on so much of your family's faces, and it's because they don't allow themselves to laugh and just be easy with things. So, accepting myself, accepting things I thought were flaws, and also just moving forward and changing the things, becoming the person I admired. So the promises I made to myself, I started showing up for myself. If I said I'm going to go work out, I went to work out. I didn't break promises because I don't respect others who would tell me they're going to do something for me or with me and they didn't come through. So why would I respect myself? Right?
Yes.
Why would I have any confidence in myself, in my word? So my word became my bonds to myself. I showed up for myself, and that really shifted so much of who I was. I became a different person and someone I could admire and have integrity, because I had no integrity as a wife to my
Yes.
first husband. So that integrity kicked in. I said, I want to be a woman of integrity. Like, forget this. You did this to me, so I can do this. No.
Yes. Yes.
So that was a huge shift for me with how I dealt with my children, how I dealt with my now husband, how I deal with relationships outside of home where I work, the patients I had as a med student and who I will have as a physician, and my colleagues and people who I have to teach, the med students I'll be teaching. It changes everything, everything, everything.
Yes. I love that. Like you were talking and I was just tuned in to everything you were saying about self-love, and I'm gonna also drop that book for those who want to check it out. I read The Four Agreements. I have not read that book, but it sounds like a very, very
It's
good
Lucy.
read. And I love how you just broke that down. It reminded me a little bit of the process of grief. When you go through that, the different stages of grief, it reminded me of that as you were talking. That's what came to my mind. And you do kind of go through a little bit of a grieving situation just a bit because you're letting go. You're letting go of
Yes.
past hurts, past pains, and you're moving to this point of acceptance.
Mm.
Um, and so you are kind of going through that journey of grief at the same time until you
I
get
love
to
that.
this point of self-love. And so
That's
oh,
right.
so I'm gonna check that book out myself. You hit on some points, especially with the parents, and this give you a different conversation about forgiving the parents because they
Woo.
didn't know.
Yeah.
There's not a manual on parenting like this is what you're supposed to do every single day.
Well,
There's not, a manual on that. And parents, of
mhm,
course, we want them to be perfect.
we do.
And
Me too.
they're not. They make mistakes. They're human.
They,
And so I am so glad that you were able to do the work and
yeah,
also, as you mentioned, forgive. And forgiveness is not for them, it's for you.
it really.
And yeah, and sometimes people think, well, I need to call out these people or go have a conversation with them, but that's not the way to do it. It is
No,
for you so that
it's
you can be free and so that you can be the person that you desire to be. And I also love one more point you made, and that is not doing to others what they've done to you. Because when I tell you that is growth,
mm-hmm.
because there are still so many people, well, they did this, so now I'm gonna do this. Yes. Yeah. And so that is tremendous
Mhm.
growth
Yeah.
to be at a point in your life where you say, you know what? I'm not gonna even retaliate and do the same thing to you. I might want to, but
Right.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not
But
gonna
we
give you that energy.
and we end up injuring ourselves. I know in my case, I
Exactly.
definitely was injuring myself.
Mhm.
Inviting that nonsense into my life, opening up that type of energy. It was, oh my goodness. Yeah. And forgiving the parents. I had to realize, like, for my mother, I had to realize she wasn't born my mother. So
Yeah.
when my kids were born and they were old enough, I said, listen, I'm gonna be making mistakes. Okay. You might have to heal from them when you're older. But no, I'm doing my best. I wasn't there. You might think I was, but honey, let me tell you, this girl lived a whole life before you
Yes.
were ever in the picture. Like my mother did. She went through so many struggles. I mean, tremendous trauma. Nothing I've ever dealt with because she was protective of her girl. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was because of what she went through. And when I learned her story, I was like, wow, what
Mhm.
admiration I have for you. You're strong to love me so fiercely in spite of what you've been through. So I looked at her through a different lens, not as having to be perfect and looking at just the mistakes I thought she made,
Yeah.
but looking at all the right she did for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And
Mm,
I'm hoping that those who are listening also just kind of take that and say, what can I do now to start doing the work to heal myself,
yeah.
because I see this joke float around a lot about Gen X, those of us in Gen
Oh,
X,
yeah.
and how we need probably like the most healing from the parents that we,
We were
we,
latching.
we were raised by because we went through some things, and a lot of us we raised ourselves because our parents were at work, and
Right.
yeah, so we went through a lot, and now we see like the late millennials and the Gen Zers, they are more focused on more of the mental health and those type of
Yes,
things.
they are.
That
Yeah.
is something that you didn't talk about,
No.
You didn't talk about back then, especially in the Black community. You definitely didn't
You
talk
just need
about
to,
it. You
yeah.
need Jesus, you need to
Yeah.
go to church. That was it.
Oh, the Lord. Mm,
Yes, that's how they had us.
that's right. Mm.
Any advice that you would give to the women who may want to pursue a career in medicine or anywhere else, any advice that you would give to them to just
Absolutely.
make the decision to follow their dream?
I love that. Well, knowing yourself is so important. It's a huge commitment, but I'd say I used to envision my future self and what she would say, you
Hmm.
know, and that future self is filled with wisdom, has been through everything that you will have to go through. And I'd say most importantly is to tap into the research, what it's going to take to achieve what you want. So like we said earlier, you start with the end point, then you work your way on backwards to see what it is, the steps you have to take. If
Hmm.
you're like, this dream is everything, it will not leave me alone. Like my dream just would not leave me alone. Okay.
Yes.
I did not want to die with that music in me. Because we all have music in us, and a lot of
Hmm.
us die with it still in us, you know.
Yes.
I'd say after you make the decision that yes, it's worth it, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm just going to commit to saying yes to it every single day. Just start with that one step. The they said the road, the travel, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Step. Yeah.
One step. You do that one step, a way will be made. Believe me, ways will be made. You're familiar with it, Ronnie. Things
Hmm.
just open up when you say yes to the opportunity and
Hmm.
commit to it. And know that failure needs to be worked into plan. So I'm going to tell you this, when I decided on going for it and committing to this pre-med slash med journey, if everything had gone perfectly and I planned according to that perfect plan, I would have planned to do it for 6 years and been at the point I am now, meaning I had a 2 year degree. I just needed to get 2 more years for a 4 year degree, and then 4 years for med school. That's 6 years, right? And I'm
Yeah.
done. No, honey. I said, look, life be lifing. So
Yes.
let me work in an extra 4 years. Let me add 4 years to the journey so that mentally I won't be discouraged when
Yes.
I do come across challenges, come face to face with challenges that would have otherwise knocked me out of the game because I was like, oh, I'm not sticking to my plan. I'm just going to give up. Right. So it ended up taking almost 12 years. But do you think at the 11th year I'm going to stop? Like I'm all in.
You in it now. You in it.
So 6 years turned into almost 12 years. Don't ever plan anything like it's going to go perfectly. Please work failure into the plan. Know that
And
things are going to come up. Okay. A family member is going to pass away or become sick. Okay. Someone's going to go through depression that you may have to take care of. You may get injured. You don't know what is in store. Work it in the plan and
yes.
don't let it become unshakable. Know that, okay, that I planned for you, okay, but we're gonna get back up. We're gonna get
Yeah.
back up and be encouraged. Keep encouraged. Read stories of overcoming obstacles, other people who have been in your shoes, who have overcome the hugest of obstacles. Okay, I read things like David Goggins is a beast. He's a beast. He does like things that are not human. He's one of my encouragers when I'm feeling a little weak, a little spent. I will read David Goggins, who's doing 100 miles of running every week in spite of having a 40-hour job and doing the Navy SEALs 3 times where people literally die. You know what I mean? I will look at Harriet. Harriet, I love that movie. Harriet is no joke. She
Yeah.
is one of my spirit animals. She is
Yeah.
bringing the people with her. Oh,
Yes.
I love that
Yes.
shit. Okay,
Yes.
come on, Harriet. Like I have my heroes that I will go into and read about them and like channel that energy, that warrior spirit that you need sometimes when the fight is rough. It gets rough out here. Okay, it's
Yeah.
not easy. It wasn't meant to be easy. This is supposed to break away the parts that are weak in you. Okay, and that hurts. It's painful.
Yes.
It's supposed to mold you, reshape you into who you need to have the things you've been wanting to have. You have to be the person to do the things to have the things. Okay. And people try to have the things first before they are the person. And it's, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? The process is in the journey, baby. That's where all the gold
Mm-hmm.
is. Don't try
Yes.
to down on that.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's
I
beautiful.
love it. I love that. The process is in the journey. And I
Mm-hmm.
also love, because I heard you say this a few times today, and that is plan for the failures,
Yes. Yes.
because things are going to come up. There are going to be setbacks and obstacles that come up. But even with those, keep going,
Mm,
plan for them, know that they're coming,
they are.
don't stop.
Yeah.
And also have those things that keep you going. If it's a book, if it's a movie, if it's meditation,
Mm-hmm.
friends, family,
Girl, music has got me through.
music.
I will put on some
Yes.
hype music. Yes.
Some hype music. I love that, because I love me some good hype music.
Right?
Um, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And we all, as you said, we all have music within us, and we don't want to die with that music still in us. And it's probably just either stop playing, or it might just be on rotation.
Yes.
So
I,
we want to make sure that we get that out, so other people can see us in our element, and that they can hear that music play.
yes, Lord.
Thank you so much for
Oh, my
talking to me today.
pleasure, Ronnie.
Um, I know that you have an event coming up, and I would love for you to share that with us. And also, congratulations on your residency program.
Thank
I saw that
you.
you were accepted, and we also talked about it today, and it was in your bio. So, congratulations.
Yes. Thank
Can you share more about your upcoming event?
Absolutely. So this has been something I've been doing just along this journey, is helping people, specifically women who are older career changers, find out the steps they need to get into med school. And now that I've finished my residency journey, as far as getting a residency, it's been a dream for me to help others who are specifically IMGs, which means international medical graduates. I went to SGU, St. George's University in Grenada, and it is it's a harder road to get out of Caribbean schools. They said it's easy to get in, hard to get out, all right? And the hard part is landing a residency in the United States. And while SGU has one of the highest match rates of all Caribbean schools, there's still room for much improvement overall with IMGs. And my mission is to help IMGs, first of all, gain the confidence to know that they are worthy of matching, because we are told from the beginning not to aspire for any competitive specialties, because we most likely won't get it. And anesthesia, which I matched in, is one of those specialties. I was advised to dual apply, which I did not. And also that I was too old or mature to go for a prelim in surgery, which I have matched into as well. So I will be doing
Nice.
prelim surgery, yes. And I'm here for other IMGs. I want to assist and aid IMGs who are in this residency application cycle in crafting their personal statement, their entire application, so that it's a story that connects all the parts of their application, that makes it look better for residency programs who are looking to hire them. And also the interviewing is so important, because once you get the interview, they're saying we are okay with everything on this application, and we just have to know if you're a fit. And that's where a lot of IMGs can drop the ball, because I've known IMGs that have 6 to 10 interviews, and sometimes they don't get matched anyway. So I am really into the interviewing prep and coaching for IMGs. I think it's something that I really excelled at because of my experience. And and how many people I have talked to over the many, many years and how well I know myself. That helps a lot. So it's on March 31st, I am launching enrollment for my residency
Nice.
application boot camp. Okay. We are going to,
Nice.
yes, we are going to go over your application in depth. We're going to prepare you for the residency interviews that you will be getting and craft your story and connect everything in the application to truly have you shine in the way that residency program directors need to see. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you,
Thank
and I will definitely also share those details in the description,
you.
and any links that you have, I can post those as well, so anyone can sign up if
Yeah,
they're interested. This has been a very beautiful conversation today, and
yeah,
so again, thank you for being here and for sharing your story and your journey. Um, just seeing how resilient you've been, just where you're going. I'm excited for you. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. Um,
right.
those of you who are listening, if there's, any feedback or anything, I would love to hear that in terms of what you learned from this episode. You can actually follow me on all of the social media platforms at Navigating Life After 40 or join the Facebook group, Navigating Life After 40. Until next time, I will see you all later.
Thank you.